Pierre Poilievre may have used the apple better than Isaac Newton.
A lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure.
There's just nothing better than to watch him obliterate naive reporters while casually eating an apple.
Like who?
I don't know who, but...
Well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
You must know somebody.
But there's a rabbit hole of this firebrand Canadian Conservatives clashes with the media that I need to tell you about, and it's absolutely glorious.
Are you serious?
I'm asking you a
No,
question.
I mean, are you serious?
So take a look at this timeless clip before I tell you how it fits into a bigger picture.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
Well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean,
What do you mean by that?
certainly you tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that, right wing, I mean, it's that type of ideological thing.
I never really talk about left or right.
Anyways,
I don't really believe in that.
Okay. A lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but...
Like who?
I don't know who, but...
Well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
You must know somebody.
Okay, I'm sure there's some out there, but anyways, the point of this question is, I mean, why should Canadians trust you with their vote, given, not just the sort of ideological inclination in terms of taking the page out of Donald Trump's book, but
what are you
also
talking about? What page? What page? Can you give me a page? Give me the page. You keep saying
in terms of turning things quite dramatically in terms of Trudeau and the left wing and all of this. I mean, you make quite a it's quite a play that you make on it. So I'm
not
just
sure.
wondering.
I don't know what your question is.
This was probably Pierre's breakout moment, especially to the American and international audience, because here's the deal. The last 5 years of the blatant MSM lies have created a bottled up anger against the mainstream media that's been very well channeled all the way to the ballot box by populist leaders across the world. While this may not have been Canada's conservative movement just yet, I completely get how cathartic it must be for someone like Pierre to just scratch one layer deeper and expose how these woke and naive reporters have no idea what they're even talking about. By the way, it's a great time to subscribe and hit the notification bell to become part of the resistance to the mainstream media. Now, anyone that's been following Pierre knows one thing: the man is not exactly a disruptive outsider like Trump, instead a pretty traditional conservative that's now realizing that Canada's Overton window has moved way too far to the left under Justin Trudeau. The antidote to that? Let's return to common sense politics, secure borders, stop the rampant money printing, incentivize housing, and get rid of heavy breath of big government on the Canadian worker's neck that's not allowing them to grow and innovate.
Why should Canadians trust you with their vote?
Common sense. Okay. Common sense for a change. We're going to make common sense common in this country. We don't have any common sense in the current government. The guy prints $600 billion, grows our money supply by 32% in 3 years. That's growing the money 8 times faster than the economy. No wonder we have the worst inflation in 4 decades.
And you know what? I think the last decade of Justin Trudeau is the best run that the leftists in Canada could have had, and they failed disastrously. Their policies to cut the Canadian worker at the knee with rampant globalization while also chipping away at their individual rights with the creeping globalist authoritarianism kind of runs counter to everything the Canadian people deserve. Because if you look at why the Liberals were able to eke out a victory earlier this year, you realize it's more of a momentary stroke of luck rather than a cohesive plan that worked. For example, Justin Trudeau's abysmal approval rating at the end of his term was barely managed to be turning around by the Liberals by leveraging the nationalist favor in Canada after Trump's tariffs, and then sidelining the unpopular Trudeau to get a new face like Mark Carney, while this clueless journalist may satisfy his ego by gloating about Pierre's loss in the election by talking about the 3-word grade school rhyming and his toxicity and bullying nature. I would say the truth is it's the beginning for Pierre and his conservative wave in Canada. In the meantime, he seems to be doing exactly what Trump did in the last decade, which is pummeling the corporate media spin doctors, with every heated exchange reducing their public credibility to nil. Here's another perfect example of this.
The failure of the system to not support people who have committed crimes, gone to jail, served their sentence, and then they're committing another crime. So is this not a failure of things like social services and support for people who have committed crimes?
Are you serious?
I'm asking you a
No, I
question.
mean, are you serious? Come on. You're telling me, no, excuse me, let me answer your question. Are you honestly saying that it's society's fault if a repeat violent offender commits 60 or 70 offenses? I think that criminal is to blame for his own actions. He is personally responsible. We're not talking about some kid who made one mistake when he was 19. We're talking about people who do 60, 70 violent offenses.
Why do those people
And then they're,
commit those offenses?
because they're criminals.
But why are they criminals?
Because they do crime.
And why do they do crime?
Because we let them out early on bail.
So because they
I think
got
we've
let
solved
out,
the riddle here.
because they got let out early on bail.
That's right.
They then commit the crime.
That's right.
So
That's what all the experts agree is the cause of the crime.
So had they stayed in jail the whole time, on bail, in jail, not on bail, as you say, they would then not commit crimes?
Because they'd be in jail, so they couldn't commit
And
crimes.
when they get out at the end of their sentence, they're crime-free?
Well, we can't guarantee that, but what we can guarantee is the period when they're behind bars, they will not be able to do crime.
You would think that'd be common sense, but apparently not, because it's almost like Canada's nearly a decade behind the US in pushing back against this far left wave, but maybe that can't happen before it reaches peak nonsense. Not just that, you also have to contextualize Pierre into Canada's political culture. While it seems sensible enough that repeat criminals need jail, not bail, Canada's political fabric is a lot more left-leaning, and therefore much harder to pull back into the center. Polling reveals how liberals in Canada outnumber conservatives 3-1, when the ratio is closer than 1-for-1 in the US, also an uncomfortable deference to the government and the nanny state than the more liberty-focused American political class. The next exchange here is a perfect example of that.
The so-called dental care program, according to the government's own numbers, has not helped 97% of people. They have a food program.
1 million
They have a food
Canadians, more than 1 million Canadians have access to that program, have received coverage to that program. 89% of
According to
dentists
who?
in this country, according to government numbers, 89%
Right,
of
according to
dentists
government
in
numbers.
this
That's your
country
first mistake.
have signed up for the dental care
That's your
program.
first
Would
mistake.
a conservative government gut those programs? Would a conservative government cut the dental care program? Can you tell the 1 million Canadians who are right now receiving coverage under that plan whether or not they will continue to have coverage under a conservative government?
So first of all, you've revealed your own bias in simply accepting government propaganda. We don't know how many people
Is
have
that
actually
just because you
benefited
say
from
so,
it.
sir? Is that just because you say so? What evidence or data do you have that we cannot trust those numbers?
Oh, where do you want me to start? You could start with Monday. Were you awake on Monday? Their deficit was 55% bigger than they said 8 months ago. So we can't trust what they say on financial numbers. Their carbon tax was not supposed to go above 11 cents a liter, and the media parroted those government talking points like you are right now. And the tax is now up to 17 cents, and it's headed to 61 cents.
Reporters blindly quoting the government without scrutiny would be laughed out of the most political discourse in this new America, where corporate media and government bureaucracy has such a low public trust. And yet this is an additional mountain Pierre has got to move in Canada by taking a good few years of campaigning to make the cultural shift. And honestly, Pierre's looking like a good character to make it happen. He's just 45 years old, has several decades in public light to potentially do just that. So let me know in the comments what you think, because Canada looks like it's in for a political seismic shift in the next few years.